Well, you know what? Maybe to start off, since you haven't watched it and you don't care about spoilers, maybe I'll just talk about Wanda really quick because I know you know what happens. So this will be spoilery for episode 5 of WandaVision. I really liked this episode. This episode um kind of dives further into um what drives Agatha. So, each episode's kind of been a trial for somebody. This one at least feels like it was Agatha's trial. They get chased by the Salem Seven, which are the witches that she kind of stabbed in the back or that she took their energy from and they died in WandaVision. Right. And so while they're on the trail, they run away and they find this trial to escape from them. Well, her trial is her mom's ghost comes in. She's got to face her mom's ghost. And of course, like she's responsible for her mom's death because her mom was one of the Salem Seven.
Mm.
But also like they had Agatha on a pole trying to kill her. So like both sides are not innocent here, right? So they've got their thing going on. And it goes back and forth. They're using a Ouija board and they're trying to figure out, what the trial is as they go. And this is one of the ones that I think like the other two felt really developed as you're figuring out who the trial is about and what they're facing. Like the potions girl, she had to figure out a potion. She had to get through all that. I think her name is Jen or Jenny or Jennifer, one of the three. Um, but she had to create a potion. She had to figure out how to save everybody with a potion. So she went through that. The next one was the rock concert and the curse and Alice. She had to, jam through her song to fight her family curse and get out. So like that was her thing. This one, like it is definitely Agatha facing off against her mom's ghost, but at the same time, when they're using the Ouija board, two things happen at the end. Number one, Teen is trying to figure out who is talking to them on the Ouija board, but Agatha's mom gets into Agatha's body, kind of possesses her, and so Alice uses her magic to push the ghost back out. But because it's Agatha, she sucks all of Alice's magic in, just like she did with the Seven, and ultimately kills Alice. So
Mm.
Alice dies. And while they're still trying to figure out how to close out this trial, Teen's using the board. And as he's screwing with the board, he's, who's here? And it spells out Nicholas Scratch, which is Agatha's son, who died on the witch's trail or something in the past. And so it sort of solidifies a few things. Number one, Agatha's not any better. She just literally stole this chick's magic on the road and killed her like she has before. And Teen's very upset about that. Like he didn't want anybody to die. And then we also kind of solidify here too that before the big reveal that's coming in a few minutes, this is definitely not her son, right? Teen is, I mean, they said it in the episode before. Rio said that's not your son. But this sort of solidifies that. And so we go into the end of the episode. So after they escape the little trial, they're out there and Teen kind of faces down. And Agatha, for the first time, is either she's putting on a front, like I kind of feel like maybe she is trying to toughen up herself. Um, but she's evil Agatha for the first time, probably in the whole thing. And she gets really nasty with Teen and she calls him pet again, and he says something, and she goes, "You're exactly like your mother." And Teen snaps, and he throws her off of the road into the tar pit. That, if you remember, in the second episode, the first episode where they're actually on the road. So I think it's the third episode when Sharon, the lady from that '70s show, when she walks off the road and falls into like the tar and starts getting sucked in, and they have to dig her out. He literally, um, Teen, now a Wiccan, um, he controls the other two witches that are left. So Jenny and what's her name, the older lady, to throw Agatha into the tar. So Agatha literally, as the episode goes on, she sinks into the tar. She's gone. The other two kind of look at him like, what the fuck is going on? He gets mad, blasts them. They fly into the tar. They start sinking. He's the only one left at the end of the episode. And he's got his little Wiccan crown that looks just like his mom's crown. And he's ready. Like, that's the end of the episode. But they also play, there's, oh shit, I can't remember the name of the song, but it's a Billie Eilish song about, like heavy as the crown or something like that, right as they show his crown and the crest starts roll. Like it was a well, even though I felt like some of the stuff in the episode was maybe could have been developed a little more. Like I wish they had added like 10 more minutes and just fleshed it out a little more. The end of it was good. Like now this is like turning the page to like chapter 2 of this story. And so now we're going to see, is Agatha really as bad as she is? How is she going to get out of this thing where she's dying, she's off the road, and and Teen is now officially Wiccan. And I don't know if you, because I think I was alone last week. I don't know if you watched that, but I talked about Marvel is developing a show where now they go look for Agatha's other son,
Hmm.
whose name is Speed. And so we'll, that was sort of unofficially official, like it's been talked about. Well, now that Wiccan is Wiccan, you have to imagine they're going to go find Speed, and you can't have either of them without Wanda. And the other big rumor out there right now too is that Wanda is going to play a pretty significant role in at least Doomsday, if not Doomsday and Secret Wars. So they're inching their way back towards her too. So I don't think this is a multi-season show. I think this is going to be like WandaVision. It's going to be a single thing, but it's definitely going to have a significant impact on the MCU with Aubrey Plaza's character being, or they still haven't said this outright, but with her seeming like she's death,
Okay.
and then now Wiccan and Speed, and we're building towards Wanda. This has effects like down the line for the entire MCU. So it's kind of cool to see a show that's a little weird, a little off. Doesn't like you could probably not watch it, and whatever comes down the line, you could figure out. But it's nice to watch. So,
And definitely, I think probably good timing for like spooky season in general,
mhm.
right?
Oh, for sure, for sure. There's
Yeah.
definitely moments of this that are kind of scary. This one I think actually had the least amount of scary bits. The one with Alice and her curse. It was a big like wing demon that was like on fire. It was scary looking. And then the one in the potions one, they kind of flashed back to everybody and kind of bad things that happened to them. And some of those moments were really scary. So this show can do that. And so it'll be interesting. Like I'm really curious to see where it goes. It just feels like this is now a different story than it started off as. So it'll be
How many
cool.
episodes is it? Do you know?
I haven't looked. I'm sure it's 8 or 10. It's not six. Otherwise, we would probably know that next week was the last episode. It says 9 episodes.
Okay, that's decent.
Yeah, it is actually. That makes me happy. So that really means we're at the
Halfway.
midway point. Yeah,
Yeah. Nice.
yeah, and we're gonna see some changes. So that's Agatha. But you watched a couple of things. So which one do you want to go with?
I will go with Swan Song first,
Okay.
just because I want to have my stuff pulled up for the other one. So basically, about a couple weeks ago, I watched a film on the recommendation of my girlfriend, and the film was called Swan Song. It aired on Apple TV back in 2021, so this is a bit of a throwback. It was December 2021. And basically, it stars Mahershala Ali, who is, I think, really good in pretty much everything he does. I think he also has
Hmm.
a lot of range. I haven't seen him in comedy, to be fair, but
I
I do
haven't
think
either.
yeah, but I think he can do drama, and he can probably do action too. I imagine he could. But basically, I would describe, and it also stars Glenn Close, who you probably all know from Fatal Attraction if you are remotely Gen X.
Yeah.
And then Awkwafina, who is normally more of a comedic actor, but in this one, she's actually pretty like, yeah, like drama. So the premise of the film is very Black Mirror-esque. As a matter of fact, if you like Black Mirror, you probably like this show. It's like a movie feature length Black Mirror episode. And what it's about ultimately is a philosophical kind of morality question, which is
Mm.
if you find out you have a terminal disease, this company, okay, like again, this is near future, this company has figured out a way to grow a clone. And your clone then has all of your memories. And you sign away with this company like the ability to swap out. You don't tell your loved ones, you don't tell anyone. And then basically your clone carries on and you fade into the background. And, the way the film kind of progresses is at first he's like, no, no, I'm not doing it. This is weird. I'm not doing it. But then you see Mahershala Ali's character finally starting to like come around to the idea. And of course, like the company's like, hey, because he has this illness, like a terminal illness. And they're like, hey, we need to, if you're going to do this, we need to do this now. There's like almost like a salesman urgency pitch thing going on. And also, what's really cool is Awkwafina, and it's part of this company's whole thing. You get to meet the person who just came in before you to do the job so that they can also counsel you through like what you're going through. And it was really kind of weird to see Awkwafina, like he goes and meets like Awkwafina's clone. And by the way, the clones don't even know they're like clones anymore. It's so weird. And yeah, I think really the movie at the end of the day is a bit of a think piece. And then it probably makes you ask yourself the question, like, what would I do? Like, would I make this decision? And it's funny because I actually didn't ask my girlfriend what she would do. But I know for me, when I'm watching the movie and you see Mahershala's character kind of go back and forth and definitely lose his mind a little bit and do some things that your boy wouldn't do. I'm like, dude, like what's wrong, man? Dude, like why are you arguing with your fucking clone? Sorry, why are you arguing with your clone? Like you made the decision, the clone's taking over. Don't try to like renege on this like agreement or whatever. Like why are you making the clone the bad guy? He didn't ask to be born. So anyway, I just thought it was well done. I think it definitely towards the end, like as a matter of fact, I would say this. I don't have any kids. You do. So I feel like for the people who actually have family that they would have to leave behind that they created or whatever, like this movie might hit harder. But for me, I just think it was a solid watch. I think Mahershala Ali did an amazing job. And another thing I will say really quickly is from I definitely think there was some colorblind casting going on here in terms of having Mahershala be like the main character and his family, but it wasn't just colorblind in and of itself because there was definitely aspects of the film and the music that was chosen and everything that were authentically, I would say, like African American. So it's like it wasn't just like swap. It was definitely there was some thought behind like how the film presented itself. And while not important to the podcast people, I will say as a human that my computer just decided to restart. So all my notes are gone. But that said, I would recommend it watching it. I mean, I don't think I spoiled too much. It's not really a film to be spoiled. It's more about a film to be experienced. So I guess I'll pause for a second and kind of ask you, Kev, like if you were, I'm gonna put you on the spot, if you had a terminal disease and you had the choice of being like, okay, family, like we had a great run. I gotta go now. You'll survive. Or I'm gonna make the decision for you and I'm just gonna swap out and here's my clone, but he doesn't know he's a clone. And like, what would you do?
That's a weird one for sure because like when you think about your family, it would sure be easier on them if he didn't die, right? Like, and for all intents and purposes, for everything they would see and know, everything would be fine. It'd just be like everything just kept on going the way that it was. I'm assuming they don't even know that he's sick. Like
No,
he's keeping that from
correct.
them.
Yes.
So I don't like it's hard because I think there's still that selfish human part of you that is like, that means that in my last days, I don't get to be with my kids. I don't get to see my kids' faces as I'm dying. I don't get to go through saying goodbye. I don't get to do anything. Like at some point, like you're just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just watch you guys on TV or some shit. Like you don't get to. So it definitely it's complicated. Like you'd really have to fight with the selfish part of yourself, right? Like because it would be better for your family. It just just keep moving on. And you have to also operate under the assumption that these clones aren't jacked up in some way, right? Like, you know, you don't want to find out down the line that somebody's clone is like, oh yeah, that one's a cannibal. I don't know what happened there, you know? But like you have to operate under the assumption that everything's going to go right. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but like I feel like the right thing to do is put the clone in your place and let it keep going so that your family can continue to, you know, if it's me, I'm the one that does the most work right now. So I make the money, I do, X, Y, and Z for the family that would be harder for them to do without me there. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of, yeah, but yeah, you would wrestle with that same bit though, that you don't get to say goodbye. You don't get to like step in for one weekend a month, and just be yourself and you're just like, yep, I'm out. So shit. Yeah, it'd be tough. It would be tough. Like I said, I think the right thing and the thing that I could do might be two different things.
I based on what you just said, like I would love if you saw it. It's crazy to me, like how, um, yeah, I think it would resonate just based on what you just said, everything you said.
Yeah, it's funny because it's one of those things. This is an Apple TV show or movie. Then again, it's sort of sci-fi. Like Apple, for whatever
Yeah.
reason, is just better at this than everybody else right now. Um, but besides Mahershala Ali, who else was in it?
Glenn Close, she's the one who actually runs like this company that
Okay.
does what it does. And then Awkwafina was the like you meet her, like you meet her clone first, and her clone's interacting with the daughter, and then you actually meet like sick Awkwafina back at the place. Like, so how was she? She asked Mahershala, and he's like, yeah, she was great, and she's like, cool, but then she's like, cancer, like it's and you can and it's played very well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I like her. She kind of people overlook her a little bit. I saw her in something where she was dramatic, excuse me, recently, and I can't remember what it was. But so I thought she did a pretty good job. So I like her. She's kind of she's on her way up, I think. Just the more and more stuff I see her in, because she's really funny. Like she does the over the top funny stuff really well. But if she can really master the at least dramedy, I think she'll have a long career.
Yeah, there's an authenticity to her that I
Hmm.
think is attractive.
Nice.
So yeah, I could also just, you want to go back and forth, or do you want
Yeah.
me to jump? Yeah.
So the only other thing I really have to talk about this week is the movie behind me, which is called It's What's Inside. And this one dropped on Netflix, I think, last week. And I didn't know anything about it. It was billed as a horror movie. I disagree. I don't think it's horror at all. There's a little bit of suspense to it. There's a couple of twists and turns to it, but it's more of like a sci-fi mystery almost. This is about there's this group of friends. So it opens up with this couple who is having difficulties in their relationship. For whatever reason, they don't have sexual chemistry right now. They're having a problem. They're young. Those two, Brittany O'Grady, who I've seen before, she was in the first season of White Lotus. She was the daughter that was friends with Sydney Sweeney.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. Mhm.
she's really great. And the guy I haven't seen before, or maybe I have seen him and I just don't know where, but his name is James Morosini. And like I said, I maybe sort of recognize him, but not really. But anyways, they're having issues. Like they can't get on the same page about sex. They've been together for a while and it's just awkward. And so like they've been together for a while. He hasn't proposed, like that's a whole thing. So they're going to a party for a friend of theirs who is getting married. And so they go to this house and there's a big group of friends from college for whatever reason that I don't think they ever even say. The bride to be is not there. Other than the fact that this guy is getting married, she has no part in this film at all. Like it could have been about just a dude doing something else and it would have been fine, but it's about she's never there. So they're throwing this party and they invite this friend from college who they kind of wronged at some point, and he was a little crazy and a little weird. But they invite him for some reason, and he shows up. His name is Forbes. The character's name is Forbes, played by David Thompson, who, again, I feel like I've seen somewhere before, but couldn't tell you where. And that's how it is with the entire cast. Brittany O'Grady, I recognize from White Lotus. Alicia Debnam Carey is in this. She was in Fear the Walking Dead, and she was in a CW show that I can't remember the name of at the moment. But she's been in a few things. Like she's at least to me a bigger name than everybody else. But it's like a cast of nobodies, and so the gist of it is this dude, this weird dude comes back. He has become kind of a an inventor and a scientist. So he's got this box, and he doesn't tell him what it is, and he just says we're going to play a game, and he puts electrodes on everybody's heads, including his own, and he presses a button, and they literally all body swap. He is able to wire who switches who with who. And so now they're playing a game where you have to figure out who's in whose body, and then they'll swap back. And like that's they go through this whole round, but as they're doing this, of course, people do dumb shit when they're in somebody else's body. Like now the couple that isn't working right, the dude's in a different body. He gets to go make out with the girl that, or the body of the girl that he is probably actually attracted to. Like, so there's a lot of drama in this. And so they get through the first round and everybody's a little tense or whatever and a little freaked out because it was crazy being in somebody else's body or whatever. And, they all have their little arguments or whatever about it. And they decide to go for a round two. And now more weirdness ensues. But one guy and one girl go upstairs and they're on a balcony. And what the guy is the dude that's supposed to be getting married. And the girl is some other girl. And they end up having sex on this balcony. Well, as they're doing it, the balcony gives way. They fall off and die. So now
Oh.
these bodies are dead with two different people's brains in them, right? So now there's this whole issue of we can't go back to the way we were. And it just gets crazier and crazier. I don't want to give anything away if anybody wants to watch this. What I really struggled with this movie is there is uh like an antagonist in this movie somewhere that comes out of nowhere. And I was like, okay. Like it doesn't I didn't feel like they set that up enough. But the other thing about it was the filming. And I looked at the director and he doesn't look young enough, but this felt like a Gen Z movie. Like the way that it was shot, nothing lasted long enough. Everything was like quick cuts. Like it was like that TikTok era of shit where they're like, you can only handle 30 seconds worth of stuff. And
Mhm.
then we're going to move to the next thing. And it was really kind of off-putting. And maybe it's because I'm an old man now, right? Like, but like this is the first movie that I remember seeing where I really felt like this was made for Gen Z. Like
So
it,
it's funny because the picture and what you're describing, and even the craziness of the plot, reminds me of that movie Bodies, 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 which also I think to me was very, you felt the generation gap in
that's
that
true.
movie.
That's true.
Um,
Um,
did
less
you see
less
that one?
like computer. Yeah, I saw Body. I like Bodies a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, to be fair, it's similar to that. There was another movie that I was thinking of too that I just lost, but it's a little similar too. Um, using the body swap in the way that they did, it's a little original. Like, I
Yeah.
think if it had been done in a different way, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. And it's not that I didn't enjoy it. It was just so like jarringly different than movies that I'm used to watching right now. And I just couldn't quite get into it. And like I said, the one antagonist that just kind of was like, "Hey, I'm here. Guess what? Now everything's even weirder." Um, but otherwise, like it's not a bad movie. I think it actually did pretty well on Rotten Tomatoes. I want to say it was like in the 70s or the 80s.
Good.
Um, but yeah, for me, it was just a little, and again, now I'm old, I guess, but it was a little too young for me. It was just a little too, like the pacing and the way that it was done was a little weird, but otherwise it was all right. Like I would at least recommend it to people to see what your take on it was. And I would say if you can figure out what's going on, but I don't think you can based on the way that they made it, which to me is like a creative cop out. You know, it's almost like the reverse Deus Ex Machina, right? Like they're like, and here comes our villain out of nowhere. You didn't even know they existed. Here they are. Like, and so it's it's not that it's hard to figure out, it's that the figuring out of it almost doesn't make sense.
I had
So
two thoughts. One, remind me again what platform is this on?
Netflix.
Okay. And then two, I wonder what Lauren would think because I know Lauren actually does lean like Lauren liked Teen Wolf, for example, which for me I have like zero interest.
Oh,
So it's like so for me, I wonder if she would like this.
she might.
All right, cool. Well, that sounds cool. I did like that the best friend in what's it called White Lotus, like she was cool. So I hope I see more of
Yeah,
her. She
I
kind of
she's
reminds,
in
yeah.
something else too. I just looked her up, and she's in a couple other things too. She was in The Consultant also. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Yeah, that one was a trip. I think this was an Amazon Prime one where Christoph Waltz comes in to a company, and it's like it's almost sort of implied like he's the devil running the company. Like it was a trip.
You were telling me about this one. I
Yeah,
remember this.
it
Yeah.
was kind of good. Like I kind of dug it. Um, and then she was in a show called Star and a movie called Little Voice that was created by J.J. Abrams. No, a series called Little Voice. It was a J.J. Abrams series in 2020 that I've never heard of.
Neither have I.
But yeah, so I mean, she's done some stuff, so she's still working her way up. So I think she's climbing. I don't know that she's going to be lead actress material, although she's pretty. Like but she's not like leading lady, like drop dead
Yeah.
pretty, like a Scarlett Johansson or somebody like that. But you know, in the right roles, she'll be okay. But she is young and she looks young, so you know, it depends on what parts they want to cast her in for now too.
To me, I feel like she could be like a relative of Zendaya in like a movie or something. Like I feel like that's kind of
Sort of,
like,
yeah,
yeah, that's the lane I would
yeah,
probably put her in.
yeah. Like Alicia
Um,
Debnam Carey, who is the other, like I said, the other one that I remember. She is more like conventionally like pretty. Like she's a little leaner. She's got, pretty features and stuff. But she hasn't really taken off either. I actually thought she was great in Fear the Walking Dead. Like I really liked her in that. But she just hasn't done much. I think she has kind of been happy being a pretty white girl in real life. Like I've seen her on like Instagram and stuff, and she's just living the life. I think she was on them. Oh shit, she was in 102 episodes of Fear the Walking Dead. So as late as 2023. So she just hasn't had the opportunity to really move on from that yet. And maybe she's kind of living in that world. But I think that show is also done. So we'll see where her career goes next. But I did like her a lot in that.
I so basically we were gonna have Jared on the show. I think Jared had something come up, but if you're listening, you know, you can take credit for what I'm about to do now, which is to go back in time to the year 2019. And that, of course, was a little film, not so little film actually, called Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix was a film the I think the fine no no Mutants was the New Mutants I think was a final film, but it was the last
New Mutants was like going to be part of the MC, like they were trying to figure out how to get it into the MCU, or it was right at the acquisition, like
yeah
of Disney and Marvel or whatever it was. There was
Fox.
something that had, yeah, Fox. There you go. And Disney bought Fox, and they were like, all of a sudden, this movie that looked like New Mutants looked like it was going to be pure horror. Like it looked like
Yes.
it was going to be scary as shit, and they were going to put it out at like Halloween. And then Disney bought Fox, and then they totally messed with it because they were trying to figure out how to make it maybe fit into the MCU, maybe not. and then they decided it wouldn't. But by the time they had got their Mickey Mouse hands all over it, it was a very different film than what it seemed like it was going to be.
So it's funny because I was reading up on the development of Dark Phoenix, and Dark Phoenix and New Mutants were supposed to like kind of be in the same universe, and there was
Mhm.
going to be a crossover.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, yeah, but like it totally fits because the tone is there. So Dark Phoenix, even though it's like the third film, it's like wait, it's the fourth. It's the First Class, um,
Days of Future
Days of Future
Past.
Past, then Apocalypse, and then Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix feels like a reboot. It was supposed to be at the start of a new trilogy.
Mm.
And basically the reason why I watched it was because, I shared this meme on Facebook as I do, and it talked about a certain movie, I forget what it was, saying, "Oh, this is the worst Marvel film ever," or whatever. And then someone's like, someone hasn't seen um X-Men Apocalypse, right? And I'm like, exactly. And then Jarrah was like, I think Dark Phoenix is tied with that. And I'm like, nah, I think Dark Phoenix was a little better than Apocalypse. Apocalypse is still the worst. So I saw it, but to be fair, I watched Apocalypse after seeing it in the theater and being let down, and I hated it more. So I figured, let me do the same treatment with Dark Phoenix. And it turns out the headline is I liked it better. So here's what I'll say about Dark Phoenix really quick. I think the biggest sin that Dark Phoenix committed was the sin of not being necessary. Like you didn't need to do it. That's the biggest sin. And I think that that's the sin that Joker 2 probably committed, which we're probably going to talk about in the next episode when Lauren's back. But it just didn't need to be done. I remember going into the theater very like prejudiced against the film. So much so I strolled in late. I missed the first probably 10-15 minutes of it. But I sat down there because Simon Kinberg, who directed the film, wrote the film, and he also wrote, by the way, The Last Stand, the X-Men 3,
Okay.
decided he wanted to erase Last Stand and make this movie. Now, I took exception to that because I am of the incredibly unpopular opinion that Last Stand is actually, in my opinion, the best of the original trilogy. No, there's probably heads exploding, people going, Andrew, like you just lost all credibility. But to me, I liked Last Stand just because it actually dealt with the gift or the gifted, the idea of like, if you cure yourself, can I assimilate? And then, of course, Dark Phoenix in a grounded way. So this one, this one basically did it again, kind of like a different reality. And, it's the whole Phoenix thing again, but it's grounded. The Shi'ar Empire was supposed to be involved, but they changed it to the Skrulls and then changed it to the Dabari because like the Skrulls was being used in Captain Marvel. But it's really funny because there's a scene in the movie where there's some noises happening in the forest, and someone goes, "What could that be?" Because their dog's barking like crazy. And they go, "It's probably some squirrels." And the way they say squirrels, like they knew what they were doing, you
Yeah.
know. So anyway, the Dabari show up and they start doing their thing. So I'm just gonna jump around. What I liked about the film actually was my goodness, what's his name? McAvoy.
Yeah.
James McAvoy, you really start to see like the Patrick Stewart version of Xavier start to come out. His voice is deeper, he's bigger, heftier. But what I didn't like about his portrayal was he's actually kind of a dick. Like he's actually arrogant and he's actually kind of the villain in a way, kind of a villain in the movie in that he's more concerned with how the X-Men appear and he's willing to sacrifice their lives for the sake of like his popularity, his chumminess with the president and the mutants looking good in the public. Sophie Turner unfortunately was not the best part of the movie
No.
like
No.
she
I remember that. I don't remember a lot of Dark Phoenix, but I do remember that.
Yeah, even though she's like the main character, but I'll tell you what, I liked her better on the second viewing than I did the first. But yeah, that's that. I mean, Fassbender as Magneto is perfect. Although, when I read about the movie, there's a scene where like Phoenix goes to kind of recruit him for help, and he has this like kind of settlement community. Do you know what that community was? And if you do, then like I'm impressed if you remember that is.
No, but I mean, is it the um oh, what's it called? The island?
Correct. It's Genosha. But to
Genosha, there
me,
you
it's
go.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
really, dude? Like that, it's like that's not Genosha. Genosha is
Mm-mm.
supposed to be super like, like technologically advanced. And it's like, no, it's just like a fucking, it's like they went to Midsummer's Land, like where it's just like grass and everyone's like
Yeah,
all natural, like it's a farm. What? That's not Genosha. Um, but he's amazing, I think, as
yeah.
Magneto's all
I
around.
like him a lot.
Ty Sheridan. Okay. So even though he doesn't strike me as the most alpha dude, right? That movie, in my opinion, is the best live action Cyclops we've got to date, actually. He actually his optic blasts are on point. He definitely stands up for Jean Grey. He actually even drops the F-bomb once, like in defense of Jean Grey. Like he definitely is, and he's not to be messed with. So I do think that Dark Phoenix stands out as having, again, the best live action Cyclops to date. Um, so that counts for something. Jennifer Lawrence clearly wanted to be out of the movie, so you know what happens to her like early on. Nicholas Holt. Basically, what I would say ultimately is this. I feel like I'm kind of babbling. Oh, by the way, Scott Shepherd, he plays Jean Grey's dad, and I wouldn't have known who he was, obviously, when I first saw the movie, but after his incredibly creeptastic role in The Last of Us, like that kind of cult leader guy who's
Oh
going
shit, is that
after.
him?
That's him, dude. So
All right.
he has an unforgettable face. So, Jean Grey's dad, of course, he's kind of an understandable, kind of not a good guy because like Jean Grey is the reason why, like Jean Grey basically there she's in a car with her dad and her mom. She's a little kid. She does some dumb shit because can't control her powers. The mom dies and she thinks her dad is dead, but it turns out her dad asks Xavier to be like, yo, I want nothing to do with her. Take her away and make her think I'm dead. So when she finds him, he's like, yo, like, sorry, like I can't love you. Like you killed my wife and you're a mutant. But anyway, he that's the same guy. Um yeah, man, I would just say, there was, oh, Dazzler's in the movie. Like that's pretty cool. Like I just like it when you've got like sprinkles of the Ames character. Again, was supposed to be Lilandra, but that would have been a mistake. She's just now just the queen bee of the Dabari, who were the Skrulls. Like, there was aspects of the movie that I liked. Nicholas Holt was great as Beast again. Basically what I would say is this, like, it's for the completists. I do think you can skip Apocalypse. That's still by far the worst movie. I would say if you want to like understand the whole like sequel trilogy, if you will, or the young version trilogy, or the young version of the X-Men, go First Class, go Days of Future Past, skip Apocalypse, and go right to Dark Phoenix because it does kind of tie up all of the stories, of the Fox universe.
But
And then,
doesn't, I mean, Apocalypse, now like I said, I only got like 30, 40 minutes into it, and it's almost 2.5 hours long. Um, but it starts to introduce her becoming the Phoenix.
oh yeah,
It
like
starts dealing with her.
yeah, but but here's the thing though, right? Because in the beginning of this movie, there's this like shuttle mission and there's like this nebula force, a solar flare, a sentient solar flare that shows up and enters her.
Mhm.
And that's what makes her the Phoenix, which is, by the way, just completely like, what are you trying to do? Like, is a Phoenix intrinsic? Is it extrinsic? Like, what's going on? This film implies that it was extrinsic because that solar flare is what destroyed the planet of the Dabari, which is actually comic accurate.
Yeah.
But they mixed the Dabari and the Skrulls into one for this movie. That said, just going back to the complete utter failure of the movie, even though the movie's budget was 200 million and it
Jesus.
made 252 million, when I read like on it, they lost 133 million after all the marketing and everything else. So
Yeah.
it was a gigantic bomb. Now, I have said in the past that Simon Kinberg is the king of failing up. But I will say I respect him in that he made a statement later basically saying, it's on me. If a movie fails, it's the fault of the director and the writer, and I did both. So yeah, it's my bad. And I respect that because I think a lot of people like, I don't know if Todd Phillips is going to like own the failure of Joker or just say,
Oh, he's
y'all
been a
need to
total
fix this
dick about
curve.
it. He's been a
Is
total
he?
dick about it. Yeah. He's like, I didn't want anything to do with DC. I didn't want to listen to Warner Brothers, but like all this shit. I'm like, dude, like he has basically said he didn't want to make a Joker movie or a movie about. I'm like, well, then what are you doing, dude? Step
Yeah.
away, go away, just go away. Let somebody else do it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like this movie, like he literally made that movie Joker 2 to like make people angry. I'm like, what is your purpose in life, man? Like, why do you suck?
That's pretty meta because, like I said, some people, Michael Caine talks about the Joker. Some people just want to see the world burn.
Yeah,
Like, like
yeah.
that's basically what he did. Wow, man.
But I feel like if
Um,
you do that to a fan base, like, aren't you sort of attacking your own career?
yeah. I
Like
mean, that's
people,
the thing, right?
yeah.
But he's been inconsistent. He's another example of someone who's probably going to fail up. Some people just get like a million chances and we
Oh
don't know
yeah.
why. It's lame.
Yeah.
Um, but and it's crazy. Forgot to mention the entire third act was reshot in late 2018 after test screenings yielded poor responses. And you can tell because the third act, it does feel like another movie kind of tacked on at the end. But again, the action sequences are actually really good. Like I feel like
Okay.
the best action sequences, the best. That's the other thing. Apocalypse, I think the effects are kind of like they're almost like over the top, right? Whereas these effects are more grounded. The fighting is just like the best Storm fighting is in it. The best again, Cyclops is in it. I mean, what's his name? Magneto is just like slicing and dicing left and right. Like, and then even what's his name? Gosh, even though it was tough to beat Nightcrawler's scene in X2 in the office, like that was
Yeah.
amazing. He does some good stuff in this one too. So yeah, no, I think that the movie was just again unnecessary, didn't need to happen, but they did it. But it wasn't as bad as I remembered, and it just Hans Zimmer did the score, crying out loud. It's just yeah, it was ego getting in the way, and I would say it was again Kimberg's ego, and they should have left it alone. And
Did he make Apocalypse?
oh yeah,
So
yeah, and him and actually him and what's his name, the other guy who I never remember his name. He's the guy who did the Usual Suspects and also did of course the X-Men films, the original one, Bryan Singer. So
oh
Bryan
yeah.
Singer was the director for Apocalypse, but I believe
He got himself in trouble at some point.
that's why he wasn't involved with this one at all.
Yeah.
And Singer again, I've always considered him another kind of fail or upper or at least like not consistent. So when I found out he was going to come back and do the Days of Future Past, I was like, no. But the thing is, the story of Days of Future Past was by Matthew Vaughn, and Matthew Vaughn did X-Men First Class. Vaughn, on the other hand, I think is talented. So I
Yes.
feel like, it was really Vaughn's vision, I think, that made Days of Future Past work. And when Apocalypse tried to redo the whole what's it called? Quicksilver thing again, like it was great in Future Past. You do it again for like Apocalypse, really, it's just so whack. Like don't
Yeah, and Apocalypse was weird.
again.
I when I kicked it off, the one thing I noticed is just like and it's such a weird thing to bitch about, but the opening like credits. So it goes through, it just kicks off with everything happening in ancient Egypt,
Right.
right? So it's got that, and then when the pyramid collapses, it starts going through this sequence of basically going through time really fast, everything that's happened in time since then. But dude, it looks like a TV show opening. It doesn't look like a movie opening. It looked really corny, and I was like, it felt like it was made in 2000, not 2016, and
Yeah.
I was like, it didn't look good. And then on top of that, like they don't have to explain it, but they don't really explain how this thing that is changing his body from body A to body B works. They're like, you light up the pyramid at the top, and then like, is it magic? Is it like something like it doesn't explain what it is that's making that work? but it's like sucking the life force out of one body, transferring it by flying gold into another body. Like it's really weird. And there's just a lot of weird stuff in that one. Like I didn't hate what I had seen so far
Okay.
because this one, um, Apocalypse is introducing Scott Summers as he's learning his powers. And so like you're definitely at the beginning of the X-Men, the young X-Men story.
Yeah.
And so
Jubilee, all of them.
yeah.
And it's like an 80s film, but like even like just I just oh my God, Apocalypse is a big deal. And the way you even see and Sabat Nur and like he's like putting the pyramids together at the end of Futures Past, it's like, oh, I was so ready. I was like, oh my God, because it was an after credit scene. And then it's like Oscar Isaac in probably his most underwhelming role of all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Like it's just it was all that build up for nothing. It was like he was basically was like Ricardo Montalban as Apocalypse. That's how I saw him. He was just whack.
And
Terrible
he's
movie.
he's so charismatic.
He's great.
Like Oscar Isaac, and he just didn't have any of that as Apocalypse.
No, no, I think he needs someone with more gravitas, but I blame the film. Again, the only person who shines, I think, in that film, again, in my opinion, is Magneto. I think
Mhm.
Magneto's scenes in that film are the best.
Because
Um,
now I stopped right before it happens. I think where I stopped watching is when the authorities in the place that he's living
in the woods,
catch him and his
yes.
wife. Don't they kill his wife and daughter, or don't his wife and daughter
I
die
can tell
there?
you that. Yeah, they
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
do, man.
yeah. Because I've seen it before. I just couldn't remember. But
Yeah.
I was like, shit. I was like, I think I know what happens
And
here.
then what happens, like he literally, like the way he just like rains his fury down in them, like all you had to do was leave him alone.
Yeah,
Like that's, and you couldn't even do that just because someone at the factory noticed some shit because
and
he
not just that.
saved
Like
them.
he saved somebody's life. Like he was
Yeah,
doing
man.
the good thing,
Yes.
and all he wanted to do was be left alone.
That's
And
the
it,
best part of
yeah,
the movie. The
yeah,
whole
for
that's
sure.
the only story. So I can see why what you've seen is good because
Mhm.
his story is good. But
Yeah,
then you're gonna get to like the rest of it.
yeah.
And I want to hear the rest of your opinion. So anyhow, we have talked a whole lot about some old ass shit. But hopefully you guys still got something out of it. But yeah, no, I'm glad I saw it actually, because I like you now, Simon. I've talked about you negatively on the podcast in the past when I can remember your name. But now I can actually say, Simon Kinberg, you're not all that. Like you tried. Like I can tell there was some effort put into this movie. You got the scrolls taken away from you. You shoot the movie. Like the majority of the cast wasn't even contracted. They came back to you as a favor.
Mm.
Um, you really tried. So, and the effects look great, in my opinion. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I think, um, and I think I've talked about it before. Like a lot of people put bad acting on an actor, and some actors aren't good. Like that's true. Some actors are not very good. They get where they are for whatever reason, but bad writing and even more so bad directing can really kill a film. They can if a director isn't willing to say that's not good enough, let's try again until it gets done right, that's on the director. Like if you can't push your actors to give 110% or 100% of the part, or they can't put across your vision, or if they do put across your vision and it sucks, that's still on you. Like if you're like, this is how I see the scene, they did exactly the way I saw it, and it sucks, then that's on you as the director. So like the director is the most important part. I always talked about a show called Manifest, and it always felt like watching Manifest, they took these actors and they're like, let's just go. And they like took the first take of everything. Like none of them are necessarily bad actors. There's just nothing interesting happening in their performance ever. And it makes me think of The Last of Us, the video game. Troy Baker played Joel in that. And he said that Neil Druckmann, who also did the TV show, Neil Druckmann kicked his ass. Like he did take after take after take of stuff until it was the right thing. Like if it wasn't 100% right, they didn't move on. And so like and it's one of the best video games ever made, and it became a fantastic TV show. There's a scene in the game that I think they replicated in the movie, where it's like Joel and Ellie And she yells at him and she shoves him. Well, that take in the game they did so many times, and they just weren't getting it. And um, the girl played Ellie, whose name completely escapes me, and I adore her. Um, she was just so frustrated, and so like she yelled at him, she shoved him, and Neil was like, "That's the fucking take." And like, it's just if you're not getting what you want and you settle, that's on you. And if you can't settle, you may drive your actors crazy. So there's that whole give and take. But it seems like the people that have worked with Neil Druckmann like him a lot, like a lot. So, that works. But if as a director, you're not willing to either take the heat from your actors, for trying to get them to do it right, then yeah, it's on you.
Yeah. I think ultimately, again, I will say, like, again, I think James, what do you call him, Scott? James McAvoy did great. Michael Fassbender did great. Ty Sheridan, like, best Cyclops I've seen. Nicholas Hoult, I actually feel bad for dude. You auditioned for Batman, you auditioned for Superman, didn't get neither.
But
We
at
know
least
you
now
had
he's
shiny.
Lex.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Thank you. Okay, you know what? I don't feel bad for you anymore. That's good. You're Lex. Okay,
yeah,
good. Actually, I was almost like we know you as Shiny and Chrome from like Mad Max, but no, you're gonna be Lex now. I think you're actually gonna be a great Lex.
yeah. I'm
So
excited for that. I'm really excited for that.
yeah, you're gonna be good. I think the performances were fine. It's just that again, the movie just didn't need to be made, and it was bloatware. It was cinematic bloatware. It was
Mhm.
franchise bloatware. They didn't have like Hugh Jackman to rely upon. Um, it was and Sophie Turner had to carry a damn movie. And I don't know if just coming off of Game of Thrones as Sansa was like enough to
She
like
wasn't
carry.
even the best part of that show. Like she was okay,
Yeah,
but like Maisie Williams was better. Like hell, Bella Ramsey was better, who goes on to play Ellie in the Last of Us TV show.
yeah,
Yeah, it's tough. It was like a good casting for a young Jean Grey, but they needed to mold her more, I think, as an actress because she's young. I mean, she was still young 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
yeah.
So, but
Well, that's
yeah,
all I
so
got, man.
so real quick, actually, that reminded me talking about Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, that Superman and Lois is back on the CW. And I saw an interesting comment that said this is actually like realistically the first Superman that's going to get an end to his story. Um, like going back, like George Reeves, I think he died. Christopher Reeve. I mean, you could say that the Superman 4 and 3 or whatever kind of ended his trilogy, but like they never finished the Superman story. They just kind of stopped making movies. And then he had his issues. Um, Smallville was never Superman. Um, Lois and Clark was canceled, I think. So they never finished that one with Dean Cain and what's her name. And
Terry
then
had
yeah, and Superman Returns never got a sequel. Cavill's story was cut short. So Tyler Hoechlin Superman has a planned end for the series. It's the first Superman
That's
that's ever
awesome.
planned end. And so I was getting ready to start watching. I realized I hadn't watched the last 3 episodes of last season, and thankfully they were all available on the CW app. So I'm almost caught up and ready to watch the new one. And the only thing I know from the promos is that like he literally fights Doomsday and dies in this season premiere. So I'm really excited to get back into that show because I do think this is like he doesn't get the credit that he deserves because he's on the CW and it's TV and it's not a big budget TV show or a movie. Um, but he's one of the best Superman that I've ever seen. He has the joy of being Superman, but he's also like this is also the first one that really gets to be a family man. Like he's got kids, he's got Lois. They had to make some sacrifices to make life work and all that. And then at the end of last season, they finally brought in Lex Luthor, um, played by, let me look it up real quick because he's friggin' awesome. Did you ever see Southland, the cop show? Okay,
No.
number one, that show is fucking incredible. If you ever want to watch something nice and gritty, um, the cop show, it's
Was that
uh
NBC?
maybe like it should have been on cable. Like it was dark. Um,
Oh, it was. Yeah. So originally on NBC, but then moved to TNT. So
that's
I,
right. That's
yeah.
right. But Lex Luthor is played by why is
Ian
he
King
not on
in
here?
this. And C. Thomas Howell. Okay.
No, that show, Southland,
Hmm.
was like it felt like what it must be like to be a cop. Like it really was super gritty. But Lex Luthor, I'm gonna friggin' get there.
I can read off some names. Michael
Michael
Cudlitz.
Cudlitz, there you go.
Yo, I said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
But Michael Cudlitz plays Lex Luthor, and like he is definitely like a bigger, angrier Lex Luthor than you usually see.
Hmm.
But in this story, Lois Lane put him in prison for 16 years, and he lost contact with his daughter. So there's all kinds of issues that would make him a reasonably angry Lex Luthor. So like it, even though it's not the Lex Luthor that I prefer to see,
Hmm.
it works. My favorite Lex Luthor stories are the ones that really emphasize that maybe he's not the worst dude in the world. Like Lex Luthor doesn't trust Superman is really like one of the better stories that they have around him because he knows that if Superman goes crazy, we're done. Like we don't have something that can stop Superman. And like nobody else ever like agrees to that because he's the Boy Scout, right? So, and there's a video game series called there's two of them, and now the name escapes me, but they're literally like, what if a bunch of DC superheroes went bad, right? And Superman's one of them because it's like in the pre-story to the video game, it's basically like a Mortal Kombat kind of game. Like it's just a fighting game with all the superheroes. But like the Joker murders Lois Lane right in front of Superman. And he loses his shit. He's like, I will never let anybody get hurt again. He becomes like supreme leader Superman, right? And it's the what Lex Luthor was always afraid of. And so
I
it kind of
think
made it
I've
fun.
actually seen like I mean, is it like I think I've seen that where he has all this armor and stuff,
Yep.
and I think Batman's like fighting him, and he actually like it actually shows like there's like gameplay, like not gameplay, like story, interstitial stuff, like and I've seen like how he's like trying like Batman's like trying to stand up. Like, anyways, that looks badass. I
Yeah, it's
think a
cool.
lot of this do with those games. I'm like, why don't you guys put that in live action? Like these are stories I would watch, like because it's so dystopian and so. I guess I don't know. I mean,
It's
I
it's
know,
hard because when you talk about live action,
yeah,
people want to see the
the good
original
one.
story. You could
Yeah.
do it animated, or you could do it in the comic. There is a comic version of it also. I wish I could remember the name. It should be right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't remember. Um, but it's like a cool story. But it is like Lex Luthor was right. So you look at how bad Lex
Yes.
Luthor is, but he's right. If you're not ready for Superman to go bad and he goes bad, you're done. Yeah. So,
He's Homelander.
yeah.
Speaking of Cavill, actually, you reminded me of something. So like how well do you remember like Voltron, like the actual like TV show and the
I
characters?
watched it not long ago with my kids or with my
Okay.
middle son. He's the only one that really cares about this stuff. But yeah, we watched it maybe even this year.
Okay. Okay. The reason why, of course, is like again with all these TV shows, it's hard to watch. At least for me now, like man, this is kind of pain. Henry Cavill has been cast in the live action
Live action.
Voltron movie that is being made by Amazon MGM Studios,
Yeah, I'm not quite
and
sure who's responsible for that. Is it Prime or is it MGM Plus?
like
Uh,
yeah, yeah, right. But like, but that to me, so then one of the questions like who's he gonna be, right? My money is Prince Lotor. I
yeah.
think that when you think about the Witcher with the white hair, the strong chin, and he's older than the rest of the guys as far as like the space explorers, I could see him being Lotor. And that's exciting to me because, like, okay, the fact that Cavill's not cheap. I'm sorry. So that
No,
tells me, now here's a problem though. If all the money goes to
to the
like the
cast.
cast, we got another Transformers one. You know, so like let's definitely like not do that. But at the same time, it's yeah, I'm actually really excited. I think I can't think of a better like
The only issue I have with him for Lotor is that he is a hair too old because like the Voltron Force was, I mean, they
team.
were like 18 to 20,
Yeah.
and um then you have the whole Keith Allura thing, so that puts her around the same age,
Yes.
but Lotor's also in love with her. But because he's a bad guy, I think
It makes it
it's
creepier.
yeah, it's okay that it's that creepy.
Yeah.
Plus, I
You
mean,
know?
he's a handsome guy. Plus, Hollywood doesn't give a damn about an older guy with a
Hey.
younger girl. Like, if it was the other way around, people would be like, I don't
Oh yeah.
know. But
You
yeah,
know,
Hollywood loves that crap. So
yeah, and in the original series, but apparently the reason why Lotor like is into Allura is because like she looks like his mom. Like that's why Lotor he's a mixed. So like
yeah,
Lotor is Archon's son, but he has like more humanoid features
yeah.
because of the mix. So that's weird. But anyway, like that's happening. So I want to know who else who like what the rest of the cast. It might be a bunch of unknowns, which I think
I
might be
actually
what.
wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good unknowns though. Like you can't suck. Like be good, damn it. Like be Mark Hamill level good. Like actually embody the fucking role.
yeah.
But anyway, I'm a huge like Voltron. Like I love it. I think you even said it on our show with my God. Now I'm
Bill.
blanking out. Thank you. With Bill, with the Holy Trinity, my Holy Trinity, Voltron, Robotech, Transformers. You said it.
Yeah.
So Voltron is like so near and dear to my heart. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna do something I've never done before. Like 1 second. I still have not taken this bad boy. Ah, you can't. Ah, damn it. Camera. Okay, you saw it. You saw me. Here we go.
There you go. Which is
So
that? What is that?
it's like an actual like Voltron. Like I haven't even taken it out of the box yet. This is like a big die cast. Like I spent way too much money on it
Is that
thing.
the OG diecast one?
It's not the Matchbox one.
Oh, okay.
But no, but it's even better. It's like legit. I'll send you like a thing that you can from Amazon. But again, it was a lot of money, but I'm like a big kid and I
I
that's
would
how
totally
much I
buy it if
love
I had
Voltron.
the money. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
I,
like I keep
I
going, sorry.
had the diecast toys as a kid. I had that Voltron.
So okay, okay, yeah, I wanted it. I wanted it in Canada though. It was like, and again, you can do the math. Like it was like 89 bucks in Canada back in
Hmm.
like 1984. Let's think about the
That was a
inflation. Like
lot of
that was
money.
a lot of money. So, again, I think we paid more because of imports. So yeah, nope, not happening. Then in 2007, Trendmasters got the mold for the original Matchbox diecast Voltron. I totally bought the Trendmasters one. It was my pride and joy from 2007 all the way up to probably 2016. Between moves, he broke because he's super fragile, especially the head of Black Lion.
Yeah.
So I got rid of him. But then this one is like more posable and like more durable and like you can actually hide the I'm being such a geek right now hide like the red line and green line legs behind these little panel things. Like it's legit. Like I
Yeah.
feel like toys now are like so next level, these masterpiece edition stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
anyway,
because my son goes through that with Transformers because he collects them. He loves the Transformers, and like they do reissues and remakes of older toys. And there's a lot of like knockoff companies out there now
yeah,
that make incredible
yeah,
versions of these toys that are just unreal. And they, like you said, they're more articulate. They're just more impressive than like
and more cartoon accurate. Like I
yeah.
remember like old school Ratchet and Ironhide. Oh my
Oh
God, they were
fuck.
hideous.
Yeah, they were horrible.
Even Megatron was like, what the?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
His
he
legs
was
were
weird.
like 8 inches apart.
And then his
His gun
gun.
wiener hanging out the front. Yeah, like it was a weird toy.
So
But
anyway, that was a little extra. But yeah, so my
but yeah,
love
no,
for
I'm excited for that. Like to see them attach an actual name because
big
this shouldn't
name.
they've rumored this show for a while, like
Like
a
20
long while.
years.
Yeah. And so to put a name like that on it tells me that they are further along than they've ever been.
Yeah.
So I really hope that it keeps going. I want to see him. I, I actually do. I hope he's Lotor. Number one, it'd be cool to see him play like a real villain. Um,
By the way, did you see Mission Impossible 8?
no,
Okay, he's no, it's too late. I spoiled it now.
but
Anyway,
no, but he's the
he's a
bad guy,
villain.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, okay, yeah, he's a bad guy, but he doesn't start out that way. But he's a damn good bad guy. And you know Tom Cruise is no slouch. So it's like
yeah,
if you're gonna have a main villain go up against Tom Cruise, he's gotta like actually have some heft to him and like just charismatically even. And yeah, no, he can play a bad guy.
good, good. Yeah, I'm curious about that one. So yeah, that's all I've got. I know that this week, at the theaters, I think Smile 2 comes out this week,
Oh,
and I think Venom comes out soon
okay.
also.
Venom, I want to see. I feel like I'm more excited than the average person. Maybe it's because it takes place in Vegas and I live here, but like I like it just sounds to me like this is gonna be the end. We might like as in like we might actually see Eddie Brock like go. And I actually feel like they might tie this in to the MCU, like straight up where, the symbiote ends up in like Battle World or something. Like I'm ready. I love the ends of stuff. Like I loved Dark Knight Rises too for the same
Yeah,
reason.
yeah,
When they this is it.
yeah. I'm curious about it. I will not see it in the theater. I'm not in a rush to see it. The first two just for me were so bad. It's just like
Gotcha.
for me, they just did the character so dirty. Like just it's not Eddie Brock in the comic. Like they have the perfect actor to play the Eddie Brock from the comics, and he's a bumbling dipshit instead. And Venom is just a dumbass like alien. Like it's
He's
just
funny.
yeah, and that's not
And
like
it's funny because I'm not Mr. Comedy, but like I love how ridiculous Venom is. Like he's actually like, I need more money. Like I do. He's just funny to me. Like what? Oh man, sorry.
yeah, I can't. Like I grew up on like
Yeah.
the Venom that was like a killer. Like
Scary.
and it's the whole problem that I have with so much of what Sony does with all this stuff outside of Spider-Man is you take these characters that are villains and then you try to make them a hero somehow. It doesn't work. Like look at our friend Morbius.
Yo, they're gonna make Craven rated R. Like I feel like this is like, and I saw the trailer, and even though I was like Aaron Taylor Johnson, I like you.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
Um,
with him as Craven at all. Like that's not my
okay,
issue.
but it's like it's rated R. Like really? Like I don't know. It's really weird.
It has like it has to be, but like Craven was a hunter. Like the whole point of Craven is the reason he went after Spider-Man is because it was the impossible hunt,
Oh,
right? Like that's the whole reason that he hunted Spider-Man and killed because he had already hunted everything else on the planet. Like he,
so he's a human predator, like as in like the predator alien.
yeah, and now they're like, yeah, he's like all for the animals, and he's like just angry at the poachers, and I'm like, that's not that he's not Craven the Hunter, he's like Craven the animal guy, and it's not the same. It's not the
Pardon my
same.
ignorance, but on this, I'm still keeping my geek card. Leave me alone. No, this is for the other people listening. But like, does Craven? I could Google this, but does Craven have powers?
I think he's one of those characters who's been around long enough that he has and he hasn't. Like I think the powers that they're giving him in the show or in the movie aren't things that he hasn't had at some point in the comics.
Okay.
Like he has, like I think I looked it up too, and I think he has been genetically altered in some way in the comics at some point. But I believe in his original iteration, he did not.
Okay.
He was just he just wanted to kill stuff real bad, and then it was Spider-Man, and he did, and he actually there's the whole like it's one of the first like comic book shop experiences I remember as a kid was going in, and they had the big Death of Spider-Man poster because Craven had killed Spider-Man. And I think the death of Spider-Man was before the death of Superman. And like obviously Spider-Man came back and I don't know how they did that. But I mean there's a whole poster of Craven standing over Spider-Man's grave and like he's dead. So yeah,
All
it
right.
and but when you have to make him the hero, I feel like you lose something.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like I hope it's a good movie. It's got to be better than Madam Web, right? And Morbius.
Yes. And Morbius. Correct. I
So
agree.
yeah, all right. So yeah, everybody go see some good movies this week. I think Lauren said she can be here next weekend, so
Yeah.
we'll get that back. I really want to hear about Joker 2. I'm really, really curious about it. Like it's getting absolutely destroyed in every imaginable way. And I think it's probably a bad movie. Like I accept that it's probably a bad movie. Um, but I'm really curious as to what about it is not good. Um, I know the one thing that I've seen, and I it might be a spoiler, but in the original movie, they wanted him to cut up his face so that he had the smile, and Christopher Nolan was still with Warner Brother at the time, and he said no, only Heath Ledger's character should be the one with actual scars. And so I think in this one, I think Joaquin Phoenix's character does do it because again, Todd Phillips was like, "Well, Christopher Nolan's gone. He can't stop me now. Fuck that guy." Like literally, like I'm just like, "What are you doing, dude? Like this isn't your movie. This is the Joker. Like it's the Joker." And the first Joker was a friggin' masterpiece. Like it was so good.
Yeah.
And like I
It did
can't,
need to be.
yeah, no, yeah, it did not need a sequel. And if it was going to get a sequel it should have been on par. Like it should have been that intelligent and heady and creative and
And should have introduced Bruce in some way. Like, I'm sorry. I just, in
Mhm.
my opinion, because you did meet Bruce's dad. So it's like, what I cannot stand, and it all started with Ryan Johnson for me, was people who don't respect the lore and don't
Mhm.
respect what came before them. And that's why I love Transformers 1 so much, because you could tell they really did.
Yes.
So to me, it's just disrespectful, it's entitled, and just I, yeah, I can't. You get the point. Like I just think it's so selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think especially when it's an established character with a fan base. Like I don't mind you turning something on its ear a little bit or doing something a little different or something because to be fair, that's the first Joker felt like that anyways. It was it was a descent into madness, but it wasn't like the absolute psycho Joker that we've seen in the comics where he's trying to kill everyone in Gotham and all this stuff. Like he was a dude getting beat down, life taking this guy
he was
down.
struggling. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it was falling down with the Joker. Like,
falling down slash taxi driver with the Joker.
sure.
Yes,
Sure. And that still is different enough but the same enough that it works. But you still have to respect your source material for a character that is that established.
that iconic. I mean, even when you
Yeah.
see him leaning out the window of the car, it almost seemed like a callback to Ledger's.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, you messed it up. And I've also said if you're gonna do something different, make sure it's better. Sorry, that's all I have
Yeah,
to say.
absolutely. Absolutely. And so yeah, I'm really curious to see what Lauren's review of it is because um she's also not as big of a comic book nerd as we are. So, she might have a slightly different take, but I'm just curious as to what it is that is so bad.
Yeah, because I don't think Lauren liked it. I think she was like,
I'm
eh.
sure she didn't. I don't know many people that did. It had its second weekend, the worst box office drop off like ever. 81%. 81%. It only made
No,
7 million this weekend.
dude. And I
Yeah.
actually heard Gaga was hoping this weekend get her an Oscar nom. So I get to use the word Delulu on the show. I love that word. Like she's Delulu.
I like
That
her
movie
too, but
convinced me.
yeah, just
Dude, A Star is Born. She was great.
yeah,
That movie made me respect her. Like I already respected her, but that put her on a different tier after I saw that.
yeah. So yeah, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm excited for that review, so we'll see that. So, but for everyone at home, I will say we're gonna wrap it up. So have a great week, and we will see you next time.